What if the secret to peak performance wasn't just about working harder, but optimizing your health and your energy? Have you ever gone to the gym 7 days a week only to feel that you've gained weight and that you're still inflamed and puffy? How do the most successful leaders stay fit, focused, and fully energized while juggling high stake responsibilities? If you're ready to unlock the power of your health, then stay tuned for this episode with Brad Davidson and Raquel Perry. Brad is a high performance coach, fitness expert, and best selling author who has worked with elite athletes, CEOs, and high performing professionals boost energy, shed stress, and optimize performance through strategic fitness and nutrition, not overworking. And Raquel Perry is a fitness and wellness powerhouse dedicated to helping individuals transform their health and build confidence and sustain long term vitality. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the truth about energy and performance, how to train smarter, not harder, the role of nutrition, and simple science backed strategies that can help boost your daily performance. I have the honor and the pleasure of working and knowing both Brad and Raquel, and I'm super excited to jump into today's episode. Without any further ado, get your pen and paper out and let's jump into today's episode with Brad and Raquel. All right, Brad and Raquel, welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, so for those of you that are listening, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory here. I met Brad years ago when I first started Rise Up For You. Like I was like baby company. There was like a team of one or two people. And Brad is one of the individuals that really believed in what we did. And he showed up and he spoke for free at one of our smaller workshops and like really contributed to the success. Like everyone in the beginning of building Rise Up For You that just added value and service, even though we weren't really anything at the time. Like I always like have a lot of gratitude and honor for. And so thank you for that, Brad. Just so you know that like 4 years ago, we were just getting started. And then Raquel here used to kick my ass in strength class. When I used to live in Southern California, I went to a studio called what is it called again? Raw yoga. Thank you so much. Because now I moved to Vegas. And so I used to go to raw yoga and you were one of my favorite classes, but like I had to prepare mentally because it was not easy. And then I moved to Vegas and I saw Raquel because I still follow you and I saw that you were collaborating with Brad and I was like, wait, I know Raquel and I know Brad and we have to have you on the podcast because you are talking about things that I think are so important, which is the health and the fitness and really like where our world is going when it comes to these two things. And our company works with executives and leaders around the world. And one of the first things that falls by the wayside is their health. Like when we train them and when we talk with them, it's always the health and the fitness that they completely ignore until it's too late. Until like now they can't work or now they can't lead a team or all of these things that are happening. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. Before we like do a deep dive, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are. Brad, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Raquel.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm in the fitness world. I've been in it my whole life. I've done everything from own gyms to consulting to for about 6 years, I was on the road actually speaking to high level entrepreneurs, executives, business owners, all on the side of how do you take care of yourself in this high stress, high performing environment.
Yeah.
It's a very different world. So I'm excited to explore that a little bit with you. And then I teamed up with Raquel not long ago, about a year ago now, to start a podcast, really focusing on the female metabolism and the things they need to understand. Because so often we come across women that are just burnt out. They're tired. They've given everything they have to their families, their work, whatever it is they're focused on. And they're just done. And they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. All the things that worked back when they were, 20, all of a sudden cause the exact opposite response to what they're looking for. And so Raquel and I really wanted to get this message out around how do you create a comeback? Like once you've given your all, stress has won, you're fatigued, you're tired, you're beat down, maybe you're, starting to experience menopausal issues. Where do you go from there? And that's kind of what she and I really focus on. And she's like the best example of how to live this lifestyle. So I was really excited when she wanted to team up with me and attack that.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. Raquel, tell us a little bit about yourself. And then I'd also love to know how you two connected.
Well, my story is I've been in the fitness world for about 40 years. And It's just when I say that number out loud, it's shocking. But everything that Brad just said, I completely agree with because I was used to moving, doing all the things and getting the result that I wanted, and then enter perimenopause and menopause, and things were drastically different. And about, I decided, I think it's been 3 years ago now, to have an explant surgery. And when I did that, Brad and I were working together at a gym, and I thought, oh, okay, I won't be able to do these crazy hit type classes for a few weeks, obviously. So I'm going to have him. He was working as a trainer at this particular gym, and I'm going to have him, if he's willing to, help me out with my programming and so forth while I'm kind of down from that stuff. And what happened after I began training with him and seeing what his protocol was like and how he did things so much more differently, I I was hooked. It was a completely different scenario than what I was used to doing. And it made me realize that I was really doing way too much, especially as someone that was in her 50s at that point, you know. So it just really helped open my eyes to, more is not better. Beating yourself into the ground is not the way to do it. And you can get away with things when you're 20, 30, and even 40 that you're not going to get away with in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. And we kind of decided that we want this tagline of live better longer, and whatever that looks like for us. And part of that protocol is trying to scale back from doing way too much, not punishing yourself, but actually, being on board with doing things in very thoughtful ways.
Yeah, I love this, and I'm excited to dive into the conversation more because, especially when it comes to health and fitness, there's so much out there, and
Mhm.
most people really don't know what to believe or what to listen to. So they're constantly shifting. They're doing this, they're doing that,
Yes.
working out like 10 times a week, and then they're fatigued. And I'm totally guilty of it. I'm one of those people that if I don't work out 7 days a week, I'm like, how come I didn't get my workout in?
Mm.
My body's tired.
Hmm.
Like I could tell when I go work out, I'm like, I'm not even like being optimal right now. I could barely lift
Hmm.
the weight, but maybe just in our mind, we're programmed that like, you got to
Yes.
constantly hit it hard. So I'm curious for both of you, like, how did you step into the fitness space? Has it always been a thing? Like, since you were a child, you were just like athletic, or was there a movement or a moment where you really got you to focus on this?
Yeah, so I remember when I was in my early 20s, I was fascinated with the industry. I became a personal trainer and I was doing that. And I remember a friend of mine one day is like, "Hey, when are you going to grow up and get a real job?" I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I thought I had a real job." And he's like, "That's not a real job. Like, that's a kid job. Like, you need to grow up and get a real job." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I remember I went into the world of finance and I got an office job, wore a suit and tie every day to work. And I did that for a while. And I remember seeing a picture of myself outside the office. I think I was like 24, 25 at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I look like an old man already. Like my posture was bad. I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this. Like, I'm either going to figure out how to make this joke of a job work or I'm going to go be a bum on the beach. Like, this is what I love. This is what I know. And it's either I figure it out or I can't do these office jobs. And so I dove out and started and just was infatuated with it, and just kind of dove all in and have done ever since I was, I think 26 is when I opened up my very first gym and I've just focused on it ever since. And like I said, I kind of ended up in this world of working with high performers. It's been really fun because it's really challenging. The people we're talking about that are go-getters, it is I hope we could dive into it more, but it is a very different need when it comes to fitness. Kind of everything we hear the outside world telling us is we're lazy, we eat too much, we don't work out enough. I'm pretty sure the majority of the people that listen to your messaging aren't that person. The exact opposite of that. And so that's what I've spent my lifetime, my focus on is, okay, how do I optimize those people so that we, like we said, live better longer? Like, how do we get the most out of our lives when we live these high stress lifestyles is really what I've dove into and focused on over the years.
I love that. And Raquel, similar story for you or different?
I was not an athlete growing up at all. And I mean, ballet from age 5 to 11, if you count that as being athletic, played AYSO soccer for the Orange Slices. I mean, right? That's it. So basically not much of anything. And I think what attracted to me about the fitness world was it was a me against me type of scenario. I didn't have to do a team sport, not anything against that because I love it. My daughter plays beach volleyball for her college, and it's amazing to watch. But I was not that person that thought that that's what I wanted to be a part of. So I was just always attracted to that I am in charge of this. I can figure out what's going to work best for me. And, I loved it. I really fell in love. At about age 19 is when I started on my fitness sort of journey of being involved in it. And I've never looked back. I, like Brad, have not, a 9 to 5 would not be my bag at all. I just can't even imagine sitting in a chair all day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of evolved from a lot of crazy, I've taught everything from aerobics classes, step aerobics, the high impact, the kicking, think Jane Fonda or all those types of things to, now I'm a much more yoga centered, yoga Pilates, and I still do some of those crazy classes that you used to take. Not as much though, because I realized for even myself teaching that, even though it's not doing every bit of it, it's the output that is extremely draining. And I'm turning 60 in a week. So yeah, so it's
Wow.
Well, thank you. Brad has had to kind of ratchet me down
That's
slowly.
amazing.
Thank you.
Anyone that's listening to the podcast, go watch the podcast too.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's been a journey, and and if you're someone like me and most people, like what you just said, oh my God, if I haven't moved, done something, sweat, it's on this day, what's wrong with me? We're so programmed to believe that, and it's okay to rest.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult message to really absorb, I think.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk a little bit about the high performing executive side. And then a little bit later, I want to, of course, talk about, women when it comes to working out. I mean, and maybe selfishly because I'm a woman and I'm trying to crack the code myself.
Yeah.
But, a lot of leaders, you're right, Brad. It's not that they're lazy. They pour a bunch of energy and they execute when it comes to their career. And I think sometimes they forget or they truly believe that they don't have the time to like take care of themselves, whatever that means. But what I think I hear both of you saying is that it doesn't have to be what they see on social media or on TV where like they got to get to the gym every day before their 7 o'clock, meeting. And then they have to do this and they have to eat a certain way. Because the reality is that most executives and leaders, they have dinners that they have to attend, right? There's clients that they have to entertain. They have random meetings with politicians. Like there's a lot happening. So like what can they do to maintain their health and their fitness and live a longer life while at the same time not compromising their performance when it comes to their career?
Yeah, I teach a lot of my male and female executives like that their role in this world and the performance is no different than a professional athlete. It's just a different environment, but the requirements are the same. And I teach them that their energy is their greatest asset. And if you're not keeping that in check and monitoring that, you'll never perform at your best. It's easy to feel that physically. It's harder to feel that when it's a mental, emotional scenario. But what we find is that tired executives that are dealing with lots of fatigue, they make poor decisions. They actually lose a lot of money. They don't perform at their best. They're a little more emotional with their decisions. So energy is the greatest asset. And the greatest enemy to that is stress.
Yeah.
And we kind of have grown up, in this world of you just got to go deal with it. And, sleep is for the weak. And, the mighty is the one who can handle all the stress and fight through it all. And then you look at exercise, and all exercise is as another fancy word for stress. So if I have someone that's tired, they're dealing with a lot of fatigue, they have a lot of stress in their plate, and they're trying to go to the gym a bunch, we are now trying to beat a stress-driven problem with more stress. It's why it doesn't work. So you have to be much more strategic about it. So like if you wake up and you're tired and you're dragging and it takes, 3 cups of coffee to get to the gym, you shouldn't go to the gym that day. I tell people my professional athletes in the off season, they work out 4 times a week for 45 minutes. And that is a young professional athlete who's doing nothing but training in the off season. So find me one executive that can handle that kind of load. They can't because they're not recovering from it. So really what I push people is, hey, look, just commit to twice a week of about 45 minutes of lifting weights. And then the other days, another 150 minutes a week of just walking. That's like 30 minutes 5 times a week. And you do that, and I promise you, your metabolism is going to function a whole lot better. These crazy HIIT style workouts, most people can handle maybe 1 a week. It takes a lot to recover from those. The more stressed they are, the more damaging that is. It's not 5 times a week of these insane HIIT classes that creates great health and fitness. It's learning how to manage your energy. So again, I always start people off just twice a week, 45 minutes of lifting weights, and then try to walk 150 minutes a week. And people are like, I don't have the time for that. Yes, you do. Take your calls on your walk. That's one of the first things I help my executives do. You got to make calls, make them while you're walking. Doesn't bother anyone. It actually is really good for you. Your brain's working better. You're making better decisions, and you're doing things to help you battle stress by doing that. So there's real simple strategies. And then once you acclimate to that, start focusing on your sleep. Like the most important factor for high performing anyone is to sleep at least 7 hours a night. If people are cheating sleep and trying to work out a bunch, they're just doing a lot of damage, nothing good for themselves. They're not getting healthier. They're not performing better. They're actually going the opposite of that. So that's kind of where I start people. It's not as much as you would think. Literally just twice a week, 45 minutes, walk for another 150 minutes a week, and focus on your sleep to start. And you're going to get a huge return. And then what I tell people is, okay, if you don't like to walk, then do something like one of Raquel's like yoga Lottie type of classes where it's more of a calming, not super high intense, but you're getting your heart rate up and you're moving. That kind of stuff works really well in that regard as well. So I'm a big fan of lifting weights and low level activities that get the heart rate up, but not super high.
Yeah. So because I hear you, and I'm one of those people that I do not walk. I will go to a HIIT class multiple times a week, fatigue myself, but I just can't get myself to walk because I feel like I'm not getting a workout. Right? Like I'm like, oh, I don't have sweat on me. Therefore, it was like it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But now I hear you, and it makes more sense because there are times when I wake up and my body is so sore, but I still drive myself, to the class, and I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I have to sweat. You're like, I have to get it on. So it's interesting to hear this, and I'm gonna retry my approach. Another thing is that I realize is that, and I don't know if anyone listening can relate to this. I feel like the Tin Woman. The more I do those things, and then I come back and I sit as a leader, or as an executive, it's like I can't move much anymore because I'm not really like walking or stretching or like doing the yoga that I used to do, for example. And now it's like I could barely lift up my arm because it's so tight. You know what I mean? Like my mobility is stuck. Raquel, I see you nodding your head, so I know you probably have a lot to say because you've done both.
Yes, absolutely. That is such a crucial element of one's fitness and wellness. And, all of the exercises and strength training and all those things that are so great for us, they're very tightening. And if you're not also doing the mobility aspect or the flexibility aspect, you're kind of screwed. I see a lot of people that they'll go kill themselves at the gym, but they can't touch their toes. That's not going to bode well later in life. Can't get up off the floor without rolling over, pushing themselves up. A lot of those things are not going to be good later on. And I really believe that you're going to do better in your other aspects of fitness, the weight training, et cetera. If your range of motion is better, of course you're going to do better, right? If you have this, and also less likelihood of injury. If you're more mobile and flexible, it's such a huge thing. And I know exactly where I mean, I've been there with that. Oh, that doesn't count as work. I used to not count any of my classes that I taught as a workout. I'm like, oh, that wasn't my workout. It was for them. That's not me. So now I got to go kill myself. Brad really helped me understand, no, it's a performance. You are maybe not doing every bit of it. Your heart rate's up. It's a stressor. So absolutely. He used to talk about how when he would go speak, how many calories would you burn, Brad, when you would go speak?
I can't remember the calorie count, but I would remember I would come off stage after doing a 1 to 3 hour presentation and have to go take a nap. Like people don't understand the amount of energy you burn when you are performing in that realm.
Yeah, I totally connect with that. Yeah.
And I just think that what Brad has helped me to see, which is kind of part of our messaging to people, is that stress is stress is stress is stress is stress. We don't like to think about the fact that you're fighting with your spouse. That counts as stress to you. Your kids are not behaving the way you want them to. That counts as stress. Then you're going to the gym. That's stress. All of these things compounding one on top of the other. We're not looking at full picture, as opposed, like you said, you get up in the morning and you're super sore and it's hard to get up and go. I say, go for a walk, go to a nice yoga class, stretch it out instead, and I feel so much better doing it this way. I really do. And I never thought I would say that. I was one that used to travel with my own scale. because I was worried that the skin, okay, yeah, see?
I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie,
yeah.
that's me. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to get rid of that too,
Yeah.
because all that does is, am I allowed to cuss? Not cuss.
Yes,
F,
yes.
F with. All that does is F with us, really. It's, oh my God, the needle moved the wrong way. I just think that there's stress again, you know? So it's just so much.
And sometimes I think we get used to it because like I used to be a performer. That was my first
Mhm.
career, was like musical theater, singing and dancing. And we would dance sometimes for 12, 13 hours in the mirror.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
would watch like every single move that we
Yeah,
made. And now I'm older and I don't do that, but I still feel like there's like that energy inside that's like, oh, I have to, like everything we do perform. And then like, does my leg look a certain way?
right.
There's also like this vain side of it too that I think people
Mhm.
struggle with as well,
Yep.
like as they get older. So kind of pivoting a little bit, to the women's side of things, we do hear that as women get a little bit older, it's harder for them to, I don't even want to say like maintain their physique, but just maintain
Yes,
like
it is.
energy. Yeah, that too, yeah. And just maintain their energy, right? Taking
Mhm.
care of the kids, working, all these things that come along with it. So what are maybe like one or two things that you're messaging or that you teach women to help kind of be optimal as they get a little bit older?
Yeah, as women start to get older and the perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause start kicking in, stress is even more dangerous now to that metabolism because the hormones of estrogen and progesterone when a woman is younger are elevated. And when stress elevates, it's telling the body to lay belly fat, but those hormones negate it and stop it. So once like perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause kick in and those hormones start to come down, if your stress stays elevated, you end up in a scenario where the body is now laying belly fat, even though you're doing all the same things you used to do. That's the most common thing I hear is something just changed. I put on 15, 20 pounds all in my stomach and I'm doing nothing different. What happened? And then the solution has always been, oh, you just got to go commit more and work out harder and force it off of you, which then is just compounding the problem with more stress.
Yeah.
So as women get older, the things that come into play is lifting weights is super critical because it keeps insulin sensitivity, meaning it helps the body when you eat carbohydrates and things shuttle the glucose into muscle, not into fat. So it's really critical that women are lifting weights. It's the most potent thing to help manage that part of the hormones.
Okay.
It's less stress inducing, so you won't generate the stress as much. And it doesn't get the heart rate as high. So again, helps control the stress response, but there's a lot of beneficial scenario on the weight management side of that. And then walking is really critical. So what I tell women once they hit that point is exercise less, really limit your HIIT training, lift weights more, walk a lot, and then basically de-stress, 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 de-stress. If we get women to focus more on de-stressing at that point of their life, meaning meditation, the yoga, the calming yoga classes, not the death yoga classes, the mellow Pilates. I call it death yoga because I've taken a couple of Raquel's strength classes. And I remember the first time I went to do it, she introduced me as her trainer. I'm like, don't do that. Like it's hot in here. The last 15 minutes of class, I had to just lay on my mat because I didn't want to pass out in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Did
There
you see the white light, Brad?
I did. It was closing in on me very quickly.
And it's hot in there and like the heat's elevated. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I just look like the biggest wuss personal trainer there is, but it's hard. It's very stress inducing. So we want to focus more on the yin based yogas, the yoga lati type of classes that are more mellow, not as like driving in regards to stress response. Taking naps, reading books. Like I even have some of the ladies I work with set up an ER recovery day where it's a whole day of no responsibility. You're not doing anything around the house. You're taking naps, you limit your caffeine, no alcohol, and just focus on resting, relaxing, and doing things that help calm you down. It's a really powerful day to throw into a woman's schedule because women are very busy. They have a lot of responsibility in this world, and no one's, it's just kind of expected, not realized like there's a lot of demand on women this day and age. And
Yeah.
so there has to be a lot of scenarios put into place to de-stress the body to help the metabolism stay in a good place as the woman starts to get older.
Hmm. What's your take for either of you on like running on a treadmill? Is that something that's like don't do or maybe once a week or what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't
so
run in a long time.
yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it personally. It's really hard on the joints. It all comes down to effort level. So if someone's doing it, keeps their heart rate around 120 to 140, which is a pretty slow jog for most people, it's very beneficial. It stretches the left ventricle of the heart. It brings the heart rate down, resting heart rate down, blood pressure down, and it actually makes you more resilient to stress. So I'm okay if people want to throw in low level aerobic activity like that, as long as the joints are healthy and it feels good, because it makes you more resilient to stress in general. I do not like these super high intense, like hard runs that a lot of people do. I find that to be pretty damaging.
Okay, good to know. So basically everything you said today, I do.
Uh-oh.
No, this is good though.
Yeah.
This is good because I don't really see the results anymore. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm hearing makes sense because sometimes, and I can only speak from my personal experience, and I know that people are listening are probably have maybe similar challenges, is you know, I work out, I eat pretty clean, and I'm like, but why am I stuck? Why am I stuck? You know, and I think it's making a lot of sense that I'm probably stressing my body out. I'm probably like way overusing it. My career is speaking, right? And stepping on stage. So it's like on top of an already high energy
Yeah.
industry, right? And
Yes.
so, I mean, this is really helpful. Thank you so much for both of you for sharing.
Mhm.
I'd love to jump into the power section of the interview and just ask some rapid fire questions.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we always like to ask if you were to leave the world with one final message, we call it our golden nugget.
Mm.
What would be a golden nugget for each of you to share?
Ooh. Oh gosh. I would probably say give up on the perfectionism. Be happy with how you look in a swimsuit now, because in 10 years, it's going to be less pretty. So appreciate where you are now. There's never anyone that I hear it all the time. People will look at a picture and say, I thought I looked fat here. You look great. And
Yeah,
now, so get over the perfectionism, be happy in the now.
I love that. Brad?
I'm going to say presence matters most. And the thing that drives presence is your energy. So if
Mm,
you want to have great presence when you're in around the people you love the most, you're trying to impact the most. If you don't have great energy, you do not have great presence. You're not having the impact you absolutely could if your energy was great.
yeah, I love that. And what's one thing that makes you cry on demand?
Oh God.
This,
You know what? It's doing what I do.
yeah,
When I teach my classes, I say a quote. I don't think I was doing that when you were in my classes, but now I say a quote at the end of every one of my classes after Shavasana. And a lot of times it makes me cry because they're touching, they are meaningful, and I really try and find things that will make an impact on people. So
yeah,
when I have someone come up to me after class and say, "Wow, can you share that quote with me?" That hit me so hard. I would say that.
I love that.
For me, it's trying to tell stories about my father that I lost
Mm.
a few years back. Um, Huge impact on my life. I'm not going to cry right now, so I'm going to leave it. He had a huge impact on my life, the greatest mentor I've ever had in my life. I miss him dearly, but anytime I start to talk about him, I can't not cry. I miss him so much.
Yeah, I understand that. I have one more question for you, but before I ask, tell us where the audience can find you both, listen to your podcast that you're doing together, brag a little bit about where you are.
Go for it, Brad.
Yeah, so our podcast is yourultimatecomebackpodcast.com. We're also on Instagram as Your Ultimate Comeback. And then I have my gym in Newport Beach called theweightroom.us. It's a class-based gym that's focused on weightlifting for women. I think it's super critical for women to lift weights. And a lot of the media and science is telling us it's the most critical, but it's the most intimidating thing for women. So we've created this class-based program specifically for women to make it comfortable and safe for them to come in and attempt to do it and then fall in love with it.
Awesome. I love that. Raquel, where can we
Yes.
find you on social media?
The Fitness Stalker is
Great.
my handle. And I also am a big part of Your Ultimate Comeback. So if they messaged on either one of those places, I would find it. I'm also at Raw Yoga, Costa Mesa, and Newport Beach. I teach at both of those studios. You can find my schedule online.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Take a class from her,
We
everyone in
love it.
the area.
I
Good.
hope
It's
you come
really
back and visit.
When I come back and
Yes.
visit,
Yes.
yes, I
You
will.
got to hit both of us up.
Yes, I will actually.
Yep.
I'll hit
Mhm.
both of you up. I'm coming out in 40 days because I'm getting married. So I
Oh,
will stop by.
fantastic.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it's been such an honor to have you.
Yes.
We'll make sure that we put all of that in the show notes for the
Yes.
audience so they can connect with you.
Thank
Final
you.
question for you both is, as you know, the company is called Rise Up For You. So what comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase?
Gosh, I just think about being the best that you can possibly be, not comparing ourselves to other people, but rising up to the greatness within us all.
Love that.
Ooh, I like that. What comes to me just off the cuff is how I show up for my children.
Mm.
Um, So and I think rise up, I'm constantly talking to myself and showing up as my best whenever I'm engaged. I always have a goal of if my kids ask to do something, I never say no. And I feel like for me, that's tough, but that's a scenario where I got to rise up to the occasion a lot to make sure, because I want my kids to have the same experience I have with my dad.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you both for sharing. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Raquel. It was
Thank
an honor to
you.
have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
thank
thank
you.
you everyone for joining the Rise Up For You podcast. Again, we are bringing you new episodes every single week with amazing thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives from around the world. And our mission is solely to help you be your absolute best. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you next time. Thank you again, Brad and Raquel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and check us out on social media. We are everywhere from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook at our simple handle at Rise Up For You. On every single platform, it's exactly the same. And we're providing new content on every single platform. So there's something different everywhere. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, and connect with us on social media. I'll see you next time.